Once you enter the God state, you stop thinking like someone who has time left. There is a particular quality of presence that certain people carry. You have felt it. Maybe you have met someone who moved through a room differently, not faster, not louder, not more impressive in any obvious way, but with a weight to every gesture, a completeness to every word, as if each thing they did was the only thing they were doing, as if they were not calculating the next moment while living in this one. You felt something in your own body shift when you were near them, a settling, a pulling toward. Something in your field recognized something in theirs. That quality has a name in the language of energy mechanics. It is called full presence coherence, and it is not a personality trait. It is not a gift some people are born with and others are not. It is a specific electromagnetic state that the human heart and nervous system can enter. And when they do, the aura that radiates from that person changes in ways that are measurable, detectable, and felt by every other field in the vicinity. What you felt near that person was their aura operating without the single most common interference pattern that disrupts human energy fields. That interference pattern is something we are going to spend the next hour looking at very carefully, because it is likely running in your field right now, shaping what you radiate, shaping what reality can assemble around you. And you may not even know it is there. The interference pattern is called temporal fragmentation, and it is what happens to your energy field when part of your consciousness is living in the future, calculating, planning, worrying, rushing, managing time, while the rest of you is trying to exist in the present. Your field splits. Your broadcast becomes incoherent. And the quantum field, which reads your signal with extraordinary precision, receives a fractured message and assembles a fractured reality around it. If this is landing for you, here is something I want to offer you before we go further. Have you spent years trying to feel lit up again? Visualizations, affirmations, vibration work, and the light still won't hold? Every one of those methods is telling you to push harder, do more, add another technique. It's not working because the issue isn't that you don't have enough light. 6 specific patterns are sitting on top of it. They're called the frequencies of forgetting. The remembering field, a quantum guide to returning to the light. You forgot you were carrying walks through all 5 parts of getting those patterns off you. Every tool you used tried to add more light. This one lifts what's been sitting on the light you already carry. The longer you wait, the harder they get to clear. So go open it tonight. The link is in the pinned comment below. Now, back to the thread we were following. Because What we are about to explore next is exactly where that understanding of coherence begins to take root in your daily field. The God state, and we are going to define this precisely, is not about religion. It is not about ego. It is not about believing you are above time or beyond consequence. The God state is the specific field condition that emerges when a human being stops experiencing time as something they are running out of and begins operating from what physicists sometimes call the eternal present, the only moment that is actually real at the quantum level. When that shift happens, your aura changes, your broadcast changes, and everything that reality can deliver to you changes with it. Today, I am going to show you the exact mechanics of this, not in abstract spiritual language, in the specific language of field physics, electromagnetic coherence, and the measurable science of what your heart generates when it is operating in full presence versus when it is fragmented across timelines that do not yet exist. Let's begin with what is actually happening in your energy field right now. Your aura is not a still thing. It is not a fixed glow that sits around you like a painted halo. It is a dynamic, constantly modulating electromagnetic field, generated primarily by your heart, which produces the largest electromagnetic field of any organ in your body. The Heart Math Institute has measured this field extending in a torus shape, a donut-shaped field that radiates outward from the center of your chest in all directions, reaching between 5 and 8 feet from your body under normal conditions, and significantly further under conditions of high coherence. This field is not metaphorical. It is not a spiritual concept dressed in scientific language. It is measurable with a magnetometer. It carries real information, and it changes moment to moment based on what your nervous system is doing, what your heart rhythm is doing, and critically, what your consciousness is doing. Here is what most people never learn about their own aura. The quality of the field, whether it is coherent or incoherent, whether it is radiating a clear signal or a scrambled one, is directly determined by the rhythm of your heartbeat, not the speed of your heartbeat. The rhythm, the pattern of variation between one beat and the next. When your heart is beating in a smooth, ordered, sine wave-like rhythm, what the heart math researchers call a coherent heart rate variability pattern, your electromagnetic field becomes ordered. It becomes coherent. It radiates a signal that is clear, strong, and harmonically organized. Other fields entrain to it. People feel calmer near you. animals settle. The space around you changes. This is measurable. This is real. When your heart is beating in a jagged, erratic, disordered rhythm, what the researchers call an incoherent heart rate variability pattern, your electromagnetic field fragments. It radiates a scrambled signal. It does not draw other fields into harmony. It does not project the kind of organized frequency that the quantum field can assemble reality around with precision. Now here is the critical piece that connects all of this to what we are exploring today. The single most reliable way to fragment your heart rhythm, to push your field from coherence into incoherence, is anxiety about time. Specifically, the experience of not having enough time, the experience of being behind, the experience of time as a resource that is depleting faster than you can use it productively. When you are living in that state, and most people are living in that state almost continuously, your nervous system is in a low-grade stress response. Your heart rhythm becomes erratic. Your field fragments, and your aura broadcasts with tremendous clarity the signal of someone who is running out of something, someone who is incomplete, someone who is not yet where they need to be. The quantum field reads that signal and responds accordingly. It assembles more evidence of incompleteness, more situations that feel like not enough time, more circumstances that confirm the broadcast. This is not punishment. This is resonance. The field assembles around the signal. That is all it does. That is all it has ever done. The question is, what signal are you sending? Let me be precise about what I mean by the God state, because this term is often used loosely, and in this context, it has a specific meaning that is rooted in field mechanics, not theology. In various spiritual traditions, the concept of the divine or the eternal has one consistent quality across almost every tradition. It exists outside of time. The eternal, by definition, is not subject to the running out of time. It does not experience lack of time. It does not experience the pressure of a future that must be managed, or a past that weighs on the present. It exists in a kind of permanent, complete now. When quantum physicists describe the behavior of particles at the quantum level before they are observed, before they collapse into a specific location in space-time, they describe something similar. The quantum field itself does not operate in linear time the way our conscious minds experience time. At the quantum level, the present moment is the only real location. The past is a record. The future is a probability distribution. But the actual creative moment, the moment where possibility collapses into reality, is always and only now. The God state, as we are using the term, is the human experience of operating from that same orientation. Not from the past, which is memory, not from the future, which is projection, but from the present, which is the only place where the quantum field is actually responsive to your signal. And here is the extraordinary thing. When a human being enters this state fully, not as a meditation technique for 20 minutes a day, but as a genuine operating mode, their heart rate variability shifts into coherence spontaneously. The nervous system settles. The electromagnetic field organizes itself into a torus of ordered, radiating energy. The aura expands. The signal becomes clear. And then something happens that cannot be explained by the logic of time scarcity thinking. Things begin to arrive faster. Synchronicities increase. The right people appear. Opportunities that were not visible become visible. The experience of time itself changes. Not because there is suddenly more of it, but because the fractured, fragmented, multi-timeline consciousness that was consuming enormous energy, just managing the anxiety of time lack, has been freed. And that energy is now available for actual creation. This is what people who have entered the God state report across traditions, across centuries, across cultures. Not that they have more time, that they have stopped needing time in the way they once did, that they have stepped into a different relationship with the present moment, one in which the present moment is not a thin sliver between a regretted past and an anxious future, but the entire field of creation. Your aura knows this state. Your field is capable of it. What we are doing today is learning to enter it consciously and learning to stay. Before we go further into the mechanics, I want to do something. I want to show you exactly what your aura is currently broadcasting about time, because most people have never looked at this specific layer of their field. And what they find when they do is illuminating. Consider the last 24 hours of your life, not the events, the quality of your attention during them. Were you fully in most of what you did? Or were you, in most moments, partially somewhere else? Planning the next thing while doing this thing. Reviewing what you should have done while doing what you are doing now. Calculating whether you are on track, behind, ahead, running late, running out of something. That experience of partial presence, of consciousness, spread across multiple timelines simultaneously, is not just a mental habit. It is a field state. It is what your aura is radiating during those moments. And those moments, for most people, are not occasional. They are nearly constant. The heart math researchers have a term for the opposite of this. They call it psychophysiological coherence. It is the state in which the heart, the brain, and the nervous system are synchronized, operating in a kind of internal harmony, with the heart rhythm smooth and ordered, the brain waves entrained to the heart's rhythm, and the body's systems communicating efficiently rather than working at cross purposes. In this state, the electromagnetic field generated by the heart becomes what they call a carrier wave, a coherent signal capable of carrying information clearly and powerfully into the environment. The opposite state, what they call psychophysiological incoherence, is what fragmented time consciousness produces. The heart rhythm is erratic. The brain and heart are not synchronized. The body's systems are working against each other. And the electromagnetic field, rather than being a clear carrier wave, is a scrambled signal, full of what engineers would call noise, interference that obscures the actual message. Here is the question your field is asking right now. What is the ratio? What percentage of your waking hours are you in coherence, and what percentage are you in incoherence? Because that ratio is your average broadcast. That ratio is what the quantum field is reading when it decides what to assemble around you. Most people, if they are honest, are in incoherence the majority of the time. Not because they are broken, not because they are doing something wrong, because the entire structure of modern life is designed to keep you in temporal fragmentation. Deadlines, schedules, notifications, the constant pressure of more to do than time allows. The system is engineered to keep your nervous system in low-grade time scarcity stress. And a nervous system in time scarcity stress cannot enter the God state, cannot radiate full coherence, cannot broadcast the signal that draws extraordinary things. The entry point is not adding a meditation practice to your already too full schedule. The entry point is a shift in your fundamental relationship with time itself. And that shift begins not with doing less, but with understanding something about the nature of time that most people never encounter. If this is landing for you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe so we can keep going deeper into this work together. Here is the parable. I want you to meet two people. Their names are Mira and Declan. Mira is extraordinary at what she does. If you asked anyone who works with her, they would tell you she is among the most capable people they have ever encountered. Her work is precise, creative, and often surprising in its elegance. But Mira lives in a state of continuous temporal debt. She wakes each morning already behind, already calculating what must be done before the day is lost, already measuring the distance between where she is and where she needs to be. She moves fast. She works long. She is always, in some part of her mind, managing the clock. People who meet Mira for the first time often describe a particular experience. She is impressive, they say, clearly brilliant. But there is something slightly exhausting about being near her, a kind of urgency that radiates from her that makes you feel in her presence, as if you too are running behind, as if there is not quite enough of something, as if the moment you are in together is already being consumed by the next one. Mira does not know she is doing this. She would be genuinely surprised to hear it. She thinks she is simply being productive. She thinks the urgency she feels is appropriate to the demands of her life. She has no idea that her energy field is broadcasting a frequency that makes people slightly less creative, slightly less open, slightly more contracted in her presence. She has no idea that the opportunities that find her are filtered through that frequency, arriving already tinged with urgency and pressure, because that is what her signal calls in. Now meet Declan. Declan is not more talented than Mira. He would tell you himself that he is probably less technically skilled in his field. But something about Declan is different in a way that is hard to name, but impossible to miss. When Declan is working on something, he is working on that thing. When he is in a conversation, he is in that conversation, not as a discipline, not as a practice he has to remember to do. It is simply where he is. The present moment is not a place Declan visits. It is where he lives. People who spend time with Declan describe the opposite experience from Mira. They feel more creative near him, more capable, as if there is enough time for everything that matters, as if the moment they are in is somehow larger than it should be. They leave conversations with him feeling not drained, but expanded. And things find Declan in ways that seem, from the outside, improbable. The right call at the right moment, the introduction that opens the exact door, the idea that arrives just when it is needed, not constantly, but with a frequency that his colleagues have begun to notice and quietly envy. What is the difference between Mira and Declan? It is not work ethic. Mira works harder by any measurable standard. It is not talent. It is not luck, though it looks like luck from the outside. The difference is their relationship with time. And that relationship is not just a mental attitude. It is a field state. It is what their auras are doing. Mira's field is fragmented across timelines, broadcasting the frequency of scarcity and urgency. Declan's field is coherent in the present, broadcasting the frequency of completeness and availability. The quantum field reads both signals with perfect accuracy and assembles reality around each with equal precision. Mira is exhausted and perpetually behind. Declan is not particularly busy and somehow always ahead, and neither of them fully understands why. You understand why now, because you can see their fields. The question is not which one you want to be. The question is which one you currently are. And more importantly, which one you are going to be from this moment forward, now that you can see the mechanics clearly. There is something I want to add to Mira and Declan's story, because I think there is a moment in Mira's life that most people who are living her pattern have also lived. And it is the moment that shows you exactly how close the God state always is, even for the most fragmented field. About 3 years into the pattern, she could not see. Mira took a week away. Not a planned retreat. Not a scheduled vacation she had been managing toward for months. Something unexpected cleared in her calendar, and she found herself, almost accidentally, with 5 days and no obligations. She went to a small house near the coast that a friend had offered her. She brought work, of course. She brought her laptop and her notebook, and a list of things she would finally get done with all this uninterrupted time. On the second morning, something happened. She woke before the alarm she had set, which she had set out of habit even on a day with nowhere to be. And she lay in the quiet for a moment before reaching for her phone. The light was coming through the curtains in a specific way. She could hear the water, and for approximately 40 seconds, she forgot to calculate what she was supposed to be doing. Her colleagues would not have recognized her in those 40 seconds. The urgency was gone. Her breathing was different. Her face was different. If you had measured her heart rate variability in that moment, you would have seen a pattern she had not produced during any waking hour in years. Smooth, ordered, coherent. She described it later as feeling like she had been set down somewhere after being carried for a very long time. She did not know what it was. She thought it was the sea air. She thought it was the sleep. She reached for her phone after 40 seconds, and the moment closed. But here is what I want you to notice about Mira's 40 seconds. The God state did not require her to earn it, did not require her to be a different person, did not require her to have solved the schedule or handled the list. It arrived the moment she stopped, even accidentally, calculating. The coherence was there, waiting. The way a signal is always present, even when the receiver is tuned to interference. Her field knew exactly what to do the moment the temporal fragmentation paused. It organized itself immediately, spontaneously, without effort. That is the nature of the God state. It is not something you solved. It is something you stop blocking. And Mira's 40 seconds, which she dismissed as a nice moment and did not return to for another 2 years, was her field showing her what was always available. The question is not whether your field knows how to be coherent. It does. The question is what you are going to do with that knowledge right now, today, before the moment closes. Let's go into the practice. This is not a meditation. This is a field recalibration. And it works by doing something very specific to your heart rhythm that directly changes the quality of your electromagnetic broadcast. Find a comfortable position. You can be sitting or lying down. If you are somewhere you cannot close your eyes, soften your gaze and let your attention move inward. This will take about 8 to 10 minutes, and the effect on your field is immediate and measurable. Begin by placing one hand on the center of your chest, not lightly, but with intention. Enough pressure that you can feel the warmth of your own hand against your sternum. This physical contact is not symbolic. Placing your hand on your heart activates a feedback loop between the tactile nervous system and the cardiac nervous system that the heart math researchers have documented as accelerating the transition into coherence. You are using your own body as an instrument. Now, without trying to change anything yet, simply notice your breathing. Not the ideal version of your breathing. The actual current version. Is it shallow? Is it held slightly in your chest? Is there a slight constriction? Notice without judgment. You are reading your own field. Now begin to slow the exhale, not dramatically, gently. Breathe in through your nose for a count of 5. Breathe out through your mouth softly for a count of 6. The exhale slightly longer than the inhale. This specific ratio has been shown in cardiac research to activate the parasympathetic nervous system and begin organizing the heart rate variability pattern toward coherence. You are not just breathing. You are tuning your broadcast. Do this for 3 full cycles. Just breathe. 5 in, 6 out. Feel the hand on your chest. Feel the warmth. Now, while continuing this breath, bring your attention to the sensation of your heartbeat. You may feel it under your hand. You may feel it in your chest, your throat, your wrists. Wherever you feel it, rest your attention there, not analyzing it, not counting it, simply feeling it. Here is the key instruction. As you feel your heartbeat, I want you to bring to mind a single moment in your life when time disappeared. Not a moment you were rushing, not a moment you were managing, a moment when you were so completely in what you were doing that the clock became irrelevant. A moment of full presence. It might have been creating something. It might have been in nature. It might have been in a conversation so alive you forgot to check your phone. It might have been watching something so beautiful that the world contracted to just that. Find that memory. Not the story of it, the felt quality of it, the quality of being completely here. Bring that felt quality into your chest, into the space under your hand, into the rhythm of your heartbeat. This is not visualization. This is resonance. Your nervous system cannot distinguish between a vividly felt memory and a present experience at the level of the cardiac nervous system. By feeling the quality of full presence, you are inducing the physiological state of full presence. And that state immediately begins to organize your heart rhythm toward coherence. Breathe into it. 5 in, 6 out. Feel the warmth under your hand. Feel the quality of complete presence beginning to organize in your chest. Now let me tell you what is happening in your field right now as you do this. The electromagnetic field generated by your heart is beginning to shift from an erratic, fragmented pattern into an ordered, coherent one. The torus shape of your aura is becoming more organized. The signal you are broadcasting is becoming cleaner, clearer, more powerful. The interference pattern of temporal fragmentation, the signal of time scarcity, is beginning to dissolve, not because you have solved your schedule, but because your nervous system has stepped out of the timeline management mode and into the present. This is the entry point of the God state. Not a dramatic shift, a quiet settling, a quality of landing. Here, now, complete. Stay with this for another minute. Keep breathing. Keep feeling the warmth of your hand. Keep holding the felt quality of full presence. Let your field organize around it. When you are ready, take one long, slow breath. Feel your field. Notice its quality. Notice the difference from where you began. That difference is real. That is your aura shifting from incoherence to coherence. And the quantum field has already noticed. I would love to know if you have felt this before. Have there been moments in your own life when your field seemed to shift? When people around you responded differently? When you walked into a room and something settled? Share what came up for you in the comments. Your experience is part of this too. Now let's go deeper into the mechanics of what just happened, because there is a layer of this that most people never encounter, and it changes everything about how you understand your relationship with time and reality. The HeartMath Institute's research has revealed something about the heart that overturns the conventional understanding of how the brain and heart communicate. For most of the 20th century, the assumption was that the brain sent signals to the heart, that the heart was essentially a pump controlled by the central nervous system. The brain was in charge. The heart was a follower. What the research actually shows is almost the reverse. The heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. The cardiac nervous system, sometimes called the heart brain, contains approximately 40,000 neurons, the same type of neurons found in the brain. It has its own memory, its own perceptual capacity, its own decision-making processes, and it sends a continuous stream of information to the brain via the vagus nerve that directly influences the brain's emotional processing, its perceptual capacity, and its cognitive function. When the heart is in a coherent rhythm, the signal it sends to the brain is organized, clear, and supportive of high-level cognitive function. The brain, receiving this organized signal, enters a state of what the researchers call cortical facilitation, meaning the higher cognitive centers, the prefrontal cortex, the areas associated with creativity, intuition, and clear perception, become more active and more integrated. You literally think better, see more clearly, and access intuitive knowing more readily when your heart is in coherence. When the heart is in an incoherent rhythm, the signal it sends to the brain is erratic and disorganized. The brain, receiving this scrambled signal, enters a state of cortical inhibition. The higher cognitive centers become less active. The more primitive stress response centers, the amygdala, the fight or flight circuitry, become dominant. You literally think less clearly, perceive less accurately, and access intuition far less readily when your heart is in incoherence. Here is why this matters for the God state. The kind of thinking that characterizes the God state. The kind of thinking that sees beyond the immediate, that perceives synchronicities before they arrive, that knows without knowing how it knows, that operates from what mystics have called divine intelligence and what physicists might call quantum coherence. That kind of thinking is only available from the prefrontal cortex. It is only available when the heart is sending a coherent signal to the brain. It is only available when you are in the present moment, because the present moment is the only place where heart coherence is possible. You cannot enter the God state from a fragmented, time-anxious field. Not because the God state is withheld from you when you are stressed, but because the neurological and electromagnetic conditions that produce the God state are physiologically incompatible with the stress response. They cannot coexist. You have to choose. And the choice is not between being productive and being spiritual. The choice is between operating from a fragmented, incoherent field that produces the experience of never having enough time, and operating from a coherent, present field that produces the experience of time as a creative medium rather than a depleting resource. Mira, in our parable, is not choosing stress because she wants to. She is choosing it because she does not know there is another option. She does not know that the urgency she feels is not an accurate reading of reality. It is an artifact of her field state. It is what incoherence feels like from the inside. Declan is not choosing ease because he is naive about demands. He has made, at some level, consciously or unconsciously, a different relationship with time. And that relationship is not just a mindset. It is a field state that he maintains. And that field state is what makes him effective, attractive, and seemingly lucky. There is a paradox at the center of all of this that I want to name directly, because if you do not see it clearly, you will try to use this understanding in a way that defeats itself. The paradox is this: the God state, the state of full presence, the state in which your field achieves its highest coherence and your broadcast becomes its most powerful, cannot be entered for the purpose of getting more done, cannot be entered to attract more, faster, cannot be entered as a strategy for winning the time game. The moment you approach full presence as a tool for managing time better, you have already re-entered the time management paradigm. You have already signaled to your nervous system that time is still the frame, that there is still a race, that you are still someone who is trying to get somewhere. And your heart rhythm responds to that signal. It does not organize into coherence. It stays in the low-grade urgency of the person who is running out of something. The God state is entered by releasing the time frame entirely, not as a technique, as a genuine reorientation. The question is not, how do I use the present moment to get more done? The question is, what if this moment, exactly as it is complete? What if nothing is missing? What if there is no behind? That question, held genuinely, does something to the nervous system. It does something to the heart rhythm. It does something to the field, because it is not a question the time scarcity mind can answer. It is a question that, if held long enough, begins to dissolve the time scarcity framework itself. And here is the extraordinary thing. When that framework dissolves, even temporarily, even for minutes at a time, your productivity does not decrease. Your effectiveness does not decline. What declines is the friction, the internal resistance, the energy consumed by managing the anxiety of not enough time. That energy becomes available for actual creation, and creation from a coherent field is qualitatively different from creation from a fragmented one. The work that comes from the God state has a different quality. Artists know this. Athletes know this. Scientists know this. The breakthrough does not come from trying harder in the time scarcity frame. It comes from a moment of complete presence in which the solution, or the form, or the insight arrives from somewhere that feels like outside the problem, because it is. It is arriving from the coherent field, which has access to information that the fragmented, cortically inhibited mind cannot reach. This is not mysticism. This is neuroscience and field physics describing the same phenomenon from different angles. The coherent heart sends a signal to the brain that opens the higher cognitive centers. The coherent field broadcasts a signal to the quantum field that draws resonant information and opportunity. The present moment is the only location where both of these things are available. And the God state is what it feels like to be fully, completely, irreversibly there. I want to talk about what happens to your aura, specifically when you stop thinking like someone who has time left. Because this is the center of what this video is actually about, and it is more specific than it might sound. When you think like someone who has time left, your consciousness is oriented toward a future that you are managing. You are in the present, but your attention is distributed across a timeline. Part of you is here. Part of you is in the meeting that happens in 2 hours. Part of you is in the conversation you need to have tomorrow. Part of you is in the version of yourself that will finally be finished with all of this, will finally be caught up, will finally have arrived. You are living in installments. Your aura, in this state, is broadcasting what I would call a provisional signal. It is the signal of someone who is not quite here yet, someone who is in transit, someone who has not yet arrived at the moment where they are fully themselves. And the quantum field, reading this signal, assembles a reality that confirms it. More transit, more not quite there, more almost but not yet. When you stop thinking like someone who has time left, something specific happens in your field. The distributed attention collapses into the present. The provisional signal becomes a complete signal. Your aura stops broadcasting in installments and begins broadcasting the full frequency of who you actually are right now, without condition, without the asterisk of not yet. This is what I mean by the God state in terms of your personal field. It is not a state of having achieved everything. It is a state of being complete in the present, of broadcasting the frequency of a person who has arrived, not in the future, but here, in this moment, in this breath, in this field. And that frequency, that broadcast of completeness rather than transit, is what changes what reality can assemble around you. Because the quantum field does not assemble around your plans. It assembles around your signal. And if your signal is, I am on my way, that is what reality will perpetually reflect. If your signal is, I am here, complete, present, radiating, that is what reality assembles around. The heart math researchers have a measurement for this. They call it field coherence stability, the degree to which a person's electromagnetic field maintains its ordered, coherent pattern over time, rather than fluctuating between coherence and incoherence. What they have found is that people with high field coherence stability, people who maintain coherence not just during meditation, but during active engagement with their lives, experience measurably different outcomes in terms of their perceptual accuracy, their intuitive capacity, their social effectiveness, and what the researchers somewhat carefully call positive synchronistic events. In other words, the people whose fields are stably coherent, the people who have entered and maintained something like the God state as an operating mode rather than a periodic practice, experience more of what looks like luck from the outside and feels like grace from the inside. This is not a metaphor. This is a measurable field phenomenon, and it is available to you. It is not available in the future when you have handled everything. It is available now, in the exact present moment you are in. If you are willing to stop managing time and start inhabiting it. Think about the people in your life right now. Is there someone whose energy feels like Declan's? Someone whose presence seems to expand the room? Or do you recognize the Mira pattern more in yourself or others around you? I would genuinely love to hear what you notice in the comments. Let me tell you something about the moment before you walk into a room you are dreading. You know this moment, the meeting that has been looming, the conversation you have been avoiding, the situation you have been steeling yourself for. There is a moment, usually in the hallway or the parking lot, or the few seconds before you open the door, where your energy field does something specific. It contracts. It pulls toward the center of your body. Your shoulders move slightly forward. Your breath becomes shallower. Your heart rhythm, which might have been relatively organized a few minutes ago, fragments into an erratic pattern as your nervous system begins running its threat response protocols. And here is what most people do not know. The room ready knows you are coming, not through any mystical or supernatural mechanism. Through the electromagnetic field you are projecting, which is already reaching into the space beyond the door, already interacting with the fields of the people inside, already beginning to shape the energetic conditions of the encounter before you have said a word or shown your face. If your field is contracted and incoherent in that moment, broadcasting the frequency of someone who is bracing for something difficult, the people in that room will feel something shift before you enter. They will not be able to name it. They will not be conscious of it. But their nervous systems will register the incoming field and respond. Some will become slightly more guarded. Some will feel a subtle increase in their own anxiety. The room, energetically, will have already received your signal and begun organizing around it. If your field is coherent and present in that moment, broadcasting the frequency of someone who is complete in themselves and fully here, the room will feel that too. The people inside will feel something settle before you enter. Their nervous systems will register the incoming coherent field and respond by moving toward coherence themselves. The room will have already received your signal and begun organizing around a different possibility. This is electromagnetic induction. It is a real physical phenomenon. A coherent field induces coherence in adjacent fields. An incoherent field does not. This is measurable in laboratory conditions, and it operates continuously in every social environment you enter. The God state changes what you walk into rooms as. It changes the signal that precedes you. It changes the energetic conditions of every encounter before the encounter begins. Not because you are performing confidence or projecting an image, but because your field is actually different. Your heart rhythm is actually organized. Your aura is actually broadcasting a coherent, complete, present signal. And the room responds to what it actually receives, not to what you intend to project, to what you actually radiate. This is why the God state is not a luxury. It is not a spiritual practice for people who have the time. It is the most practical field condition you can be in, because it changes the outcome of every room you enter, every conversation you have, every creative act you attempt, before you have done anything strategically at all. There is something I want to address directly, because I know it is in the room. The thought that says, "This sounds beautiful, but I have real deadlines, real responsibilities, real constraints. I cannot just decide to stop thinking about time." I hear that. And I want to be precise about what I am and am not saying. I am not saying stop planning. Planning is a present moment activity. When you sit down and map out what needs to happen in a project, you are doing that now. That is a present moment act of creation. Planning from coherence is different from planning from anxiety, and it produces better plans. But it is not the enemy of the God state. I am not saying deadlines do not matter. They do. And meeting them from a coherent field is more effective than meeting them from a fragmented one, because a coherent field has access to the higher cognitive functions that produce creative solutions to problems, while a fragmented field is running on the cortically inhibited, stress response dominated brain that can only execute known patterns. What I am saying is this: the constant background hum of time anxiety, the persistent low-grade stress of feeling behind, of not having enough, of being in perpetual temporal debt, that hum is not helping you. It is not making you more productive. It is not making you more effective. It is fragmenting your field, degrading your cognitive function, inhibiting your intuition, and broadcasting a frequency that calls in more evidence of scarcity. The God state is not the absence of action. It is the presence of coherence during action. It is doing what needs to be done from a field that is organized, present, and radiating at full capacity, rather than from a field that is fragmented across timelines and broadcasting the frequency of someone who is running out of something. The practical difference is enormous. An hour of work from a coherent field, from full presence, from the God state, produces more than 3 hours of work from a fragmented, time-anxious field. Not because you are working faster, because the work that comes from coherence is more accurate, more creative, more aligned with what actually needs to happen, and less likely to need to be redone. This is not a spiritual claim. This is what the research on flow states shows. Flow, which is the psychological term for the state that most closely approximates what we are calling the God state, is associated with a 4 to 5-fold increase in productivity, a significant increase in creativity and problem-solving capacity, and a marked decrease in error rate. The neuroscience of flow shows that it is characterized by transient hypofrontality, a quieting of the self-monitoring, time-calculating, future-projecting prefrontal cortex, and a corresponding increase in activity in the areas associated with pattern recognition, intuitive synthesis, and creative connection. The God state is not the opposite of effectiveness. It is the condition in which effectiveness reaches its highest expression. It is the field state from which your best work comes, your clearest decisions emerge, and your most powerful creative acts are possible. The cost of not entering it is not that you get more done. The cost is that you get less done with more effort from a diminished field, and you broadcast a frequency that calls in more of the conditions that make it feel like you never have enough time. There is a deeper layer to this that I want to show you, because it is the layer that changes not just how you work, but who you are in the world. When you stop thinking like someone who has time left, you stop making the decisions of someone who has time left. And this is where the God state becomes not just a field condition, but an identity shift. Someone who is thinking like they have time left makes decisions from a particular orientation. They defer things that matter because there will be time for them later. They stay in situations that are not right for them because leaving feels too costly right now, and there will be time to figure it out. They hold back the full expression of who they are because they are saving it for when the conditions are right, when they have more, when they are ready. They are living in the future tense of their own life. And here is the cost of that, beyond the field fragmentation. The things that matter most, the creative acts, the relationships, the expressions of who you actually are, the choices that require your full presence and full courage. Those things do not wait. They do not wait for the right time. They do not wait for you to finish the other things. They exist in the present moment, or they do not exist at all. And every moment you are in the future, managing time, they are passing. The God state does not just change your field. It changes what you choose. Because when you are fully in the present, without the filter of time scarcity, you can feel clearly what matters and what does not. You can feel the difference between the urgent and the important. You can feel the things you have been deferring that are actually the whole point. And you can feel the things you have been urgently managing that are, from the perspective of the eternal present, essentially irrelevant. This is what mystics mean when they say that entering the presence of the divine clarifies everything. It is not that the divine tells you what to do. It is that the coherent present strips away the noise of urgency and reveals what is actually real. And what is actually real is almost never what felt urgent in the fragmented, time-anxious mind. The people who enter the God state and stay there, not perfectly, not continuously, but as their dominant operating mode, begin to make different choices. They begin to say yes to what matters and no to what merely feels urgent. They begin to give their full presence to the things and people in front of them, rather than distributing their attention across timelines. They begin to create from completeness, rather than from the desperate productivity of someone who is running out of time. And their fields reflect this. Their auras carry the quality of someone who has arrived. Not arrived at a destination, arrived in themselves, arrived in the present. And that quality, that broadcast of self-possession and presence, changes everything about what finds them. I want to go one level deeper into the identity question, because there is something specific that happens to the content of your decisions when you stop living as someone who has time left. And it is more radical than it first appears. When you are operating from the time scarcity frame, every significant choice gets filtered through a particular calculation. The calculation is, given the time and resources I have, what is the most efficient path to where I need to be? This sounds rational. It sounds like good planning. But notice what it assumes. It assumes that where you are is not yet where you need to be. It assumes that the self you are right now is a work in progress, a version that is on its way to the version that will finally be ready. And it makes every choice from that assumption of incompleteness. The choices that come from this frame have a particular texture. They are cautious. They are conservative in the deepest sense, not politically, but in the sense of conserving resources for a future that is always just ahead. They hold back. They hedge. They optimize for arrival rather than inhabiting the present. And the aura that radiates from someone making choices this way carries that texture. It broadcasts the frequency of someone who is holding something in reserve. Someone who has not yet released the full signal. Someone who is waiting. When you enter the God state, the calculation dissolves. Not because you become reckless or unplanning, but because the assumption of incompleteness that drives the calculation is no longer active. You are not on your way to a better version of yourself. You are the version of yourself that is here, now, fully present, and capable of full expression in this moment. And the choices that come from that orientation are different in kind, not just in degree. They are generous where the time scarcity choices were cautious. They are direct where the time scarcity choices were hedged. They are creative where the time scarcity choices were merely efficient. And they are, paradoxically, more effective because they are made from a field that is coherent and therefore has access to the full range of cognitive and intuitive resources, rather than from a field that is fragmented and running on the diminished capacity of the stress response brain. The God state does not just feel different. It decides differently. It speaks differently. It creates differently. And the aura that radiates from those decisions, from that speech, from that creation is a fundamentally different broadcast than the one that radiates from the time scarcity frame. I want to give you a second practice. This one is different from the first. The first was about entering coherence. This one is about making a specific declaration from that coherent field. And declarations made from a coherent field carry a different weight than declarations made from a fragmented one. If you did the first practice, you are still carrying some of that coherence. If you did not, take 3 slow breaths. Now, 5 counts in, 6 counts out, and bring your attention to the warmth in the center of your chest. Just that. Just the warmth. Now, from that place, I want you to say the following, either aloud if you are alone, or silently if you are not. But say it with the full weight of your field behind it, not as an affirmation you are hoping will come true, as a declaration from someone who has already arrived in the present moment. I am not in transit. I am here. I am not almost. I am complete in this moment. I am not managing time. I am inhabiting it. I am not waiting for the right conditions. These are the conditions. I am not saving myself for later. I am fully here, now, radiating from a field that is whole. Feel what that declaration does in your body. Feel it in your chest. Feel it in your field. Notice if there is resistance, a part of you that does not quite believe it, a part of you that is still calculating whether it is true. That resistance is the time scarcity mind trying to reassert itself. It is not truth. It is a habit of the fragmented field. Breathe into the declaration again, not to override the resistance, to hold the coherent signal steady while the resistance passes through. Your field does not need to argue with the time scarcity mind. It simply needs to hold its frequency. A coherent field does not fight incoherence. It simply radiates, and incoherence cannot sustain itself in the presence of a coherent signal. This is electromagnetic induction operating within your own system. Your coherent heart signal, inducing coherence in the rest of your nervous system. Your present moment declaration, reinforcing the field state you have entered. Your aura, in this moment, is broadcasting the frequency of someone who has arrived in themselves. Hold that for 30 seconds. Just breathe. Just radiate. Just be here, complete. That is the God state. Not dramatic, not otherworldly. Just this. Just here. just the extraordinary ordinariness of being fully present in your own field, radiating without fragmentation, broadcasting without condition. Now I want to give you something to work with between this moment and the next time you find yourself in the hallway before the difficult room, or at your desk at the moment when the time anxiety hum starts to rise. A specific physical anchor for the God state that you can use in any context without anyone around you knowing what you are doing. It is a 3-breath reset, and it is not generic breathing advice. It is calibrated to the specific interference pattern we have been talking about all session. When you feel the time fragmentation beginning, when you notice your attention splitting across timelines, when the provisional signal starts broadcasting, do this. Take one slow breath, and as you exhale, physically feel the weight of your body in whatever surface is supporting you. The chair, the floor, the ground. Feel the actual weight. This is not a metaphor. Gravity is real. Your body has mass. The surface is holding you. Feel that. This single act of physical orientation interrupts the time projection loop because it gives your nervous system a present moment sensory anchor that is impossible to experience in the future or the past. Weight is only felt now. On the second breath, place your attention in your chest and feel for any warmth there, even a small amount, even a faint warmth. You are not generating something new. You are detecting what is already present. The heart is always generating heat. You are simply noticing it. This moves your attention from the calculating mind into the cardiac center, which is the seat of coherence. On the third breath, let the exhale be slightly audible, not dramatically, just enough that you can hear it. This activates the vagus nerve through the vibration in the throat, which directly signals the parasympathetic nervous system to shift the body out of the stress response mode. Your heart rhythm will begin to organize toward coherence within seconds of this activation. 3 breaths. Weight, warmth, audible exhale. You can do this in a meeting. You can do this before you pick up the phone. You can do this in the moment before you walk into the room. And in those 30 seconds, your field will shift from the provisional, fragmented, time-anxious broadcast to something measurably more coherent. Not perfectly, not permanently, but enough. Enough to change what the room receives before you open the door. Enough to change what the quantum field reads in your signal. Enough to remind your nervous system that the God state is not a distant achievement. it is 3 breaths away, in any moment, in any circumstance. There is one more layer I want to show you, and it is the one that connects everything we have explored today to the specific question of what changes when you enter the God state and stay there. The quantum field, as we have been discussing, assembles reality around your signal. But there is a precision to this that most discussions of manifestation and energy miss entirely. The quantum field does not assemble around your desires. It does not assemble around your intentions. It assembles around your actual electromagnetic broadcast, which is determined by your actual field state, which is determined by your actual relationship with the present moment. You can desire something with tremendous intensity and broadcast the frequency of someone who does not have it yet. You can intend something with great clarity and radiate the signal of someone who is still waiting for it. Desire and intention, processed through a fragmented, time-anxious field, carry the electromagnetic signature of lack, of not yet, of transit. And the quantum field assembles more of that. When you enter the God state, something different happens. The desire does not disappear. The intention does not dissolve, but they are processed through a coherent, present field, and the electromagnetic signature they carry changes. Instead of broadcasting, "I am waiting for this," the coherent field broadcasts, "I am the kind of being for whom this is natural." Instead of, "I hope this comes," it broadcasts, "I am complete whether or not this arrives. And from that completeness, I am available to it." This is a subtle but critical distinction. The God state does not broadcast neediness. It does not broadcast lack. It broadcasts completeness. And completeness, paradoxically, is far more magnetic than desire, because the quantum field assembles around what is, not around what is wanted. And a field broadcasting completeness is, at the quantum level, already in resonance with the things that match that frequency. This is why people in the God state often describe the experience of things arriving without effort. Not because they stopped wanting or working, but because the effort came from a different place, from fullness rather than lack, from presence rather than urgency, from a field broadcasting arrival rather than transit. And the quantum field responded to the actual signal. Your aura is the instrument of this. Your heart's electromagnetic field is the broadcast tower. The God state is the field condition that makes the broadcast coherent, complete, and powerful enough to be read clearly by the quantum field and responded to with precision. You do not need to become this. You are already capable of it. The capacity is built into your physiology. The heart coherence is available to you in every moment. The present moment is always here, always complete, always available as the ground from which you radiate. What you need is to stop choosing the fragmented field. Stop choosing the time scarcity frame. Stop living as someone who is in transit toward a future self who will finally have enough time and be ready to be fully here. You are ready. You are here. Your field is capable of this now. Let me bring this to a close with something I want you to carry. The title of this video is a precise description of what happens once you enter the God state. You stop thinking like someone who has time left. This is not a metaphor for urgency or mortality, though it touches those things. It is a description of a specific cognitive and field shift. Someone who has time left is someone who is in transit, someone who is managing a resource that is depleting, someone whose consciousness is distributed across a timeline, partially here and partially in the future they are trying to reach. That person's field is fragmented. Their broadcast is provisional. Their aura is radiating the frequency of not yet. Someone who has entered the God state has stepped out of that frame, not because they have solved the problem of time, but because they have recognized that the problem of time was never a real constraint on the present moment. The present moment is not depleted by the future. It is not diminished by the past. It is complete in itself. It is the only place where your field can achieve full coherence. The only place where your aura can broadcast at its full power. The only place where the quantum field can read your signal clearly and assemble reality around it with precision. When you live from that recognition, not as a philosophy, but as a field state, not as something you believe, but as something you embody, you stop making the decisions of someone who is running out of time. You stop deferring what matters. You stop holding back the full expression of who you are. You stop distributing your presence across timelines that do not exist yet, and start giving your full electromagnetic power to the only moment that is real. And from that place, from that coherent, complete, fully present field, something extraordinary becomes possible. Not someday. Now. Not when you are ready. Now. Not when you have handled everything. Now. Your aura in the God state is not a softer, quieter thing. It is more powerful than your fragmented field at full urgency. Because power in the electromagnetic sense is not about intensity. It is about coherence. A coherent signal carries further, induces more, and is read more clearly than an intense but fragmented one. Your field in full presence is more powerful than your field in full urgency. Your aura in the God state is the most powerful broadcast you are capable of. This is what the people you have felt that quality in carry. This is what Declan carries in our parable without fully knowing the mechanics of it. This is what is available to you in this moment, right now. Not as a distant attainment, but as the natural state of a field that has stopped fragmenting itself across timelines and has come home to the present. You have been radiating your whole life. Most of it you never chose. The fragmentation was not your fault. The time scarcity frame was not something you invented. It was handed to you by a world that runs on it, that is organized around it, that benefits from keeping you in it. But you know something now that most people do not. You know that the frame is not reality. You know that the present moment is complete. You know that your field is capable of coherence. You know that the God state is not a spiritual achievement, but a physiological possibility that is available to you in every moment. And you know that the quantum field reads your signal with perfect accuracy and assembles reality around it with perfect precision. So the question is not whether you have time. The question is, what are you radiating right now? What is your field broadcasting in this moment? What signal is your aura sending into the quantum field that is reading it and preparing to respond? If the answer is, I am in transit, I am not yet ready, I am managing a resource that is running out, then that is what reality will assemble around. More transit. More not yet. More running out. If the answer is I am here, I am complete, I am radiating from a field that is whole and present and fully alive in this moment, then that is what reality will assemble around. More of here. More of complete, more of the extraordinary things that find people who are fully present in their own field. You do not need more time. You need to stop living as though time is the frame. You need to step into the only moment that is real and radiate from it with your full electromagnetic power. If this transmission is still moving through you, let it settle in a quiet moment. Return to it in the stillness of a morning before the day takes over, or in those last minutes before sleep, when your field is most open and receptive. And if you know someone whose light needs reminding, whose field has been fragmented for too long, share this with them. When you do, something real happens. Their awareness of their own coherence activates. Your fields strengthen each other through resonance, and the collective luminosity quietly expands. Your field is real. Your signal is already changing. Radiate from the present. Radiate from the complete. Radiate from the place that has never needed more time because it has always been whole. That is your aura in the God state, and it is extraordinary.